upon new developments at European level of European Union to TEEB, talk about national TEEB processes in European countries, refer to some of the experiences made and conclude by drawing some lessons learned. That's quite a lot, but I will try to make it brief. Well, let me start by giving you a little insight into the relatively new European Union's biodiversity strategy towards 2020, which was submitted in May 2011 as a result of unprecedented biodiversity loss and to support international efforts to conserve global biodiversity. The European strategy aims to reverse biodiversity loss and to speed up the European Union's transition towards a resource-efficient and green economy. Important components of the strategy are to value biodiversity and ecosystems, to build up a knowledge base by monitoring and reporting, and to fill key research gaps. The strategy includes 6 targets related to various aspects of biodiversity, and it's target number 2 that specifically refers to the maintenance of ecosystems and their services and aims to achieve this target by establishing a so-called green infrastructure. Targets will be achieved by or through 20 actions. It's action number 5, you have also mentioned here, which calls upon member states to map and assess the state of ecosystems and their services in their national territory by 2014, that is rather challenging, and to assess the economic value of such services, to promote the integration of these values into accounting and reporting systems at European and national level by 2020. In fact, this action is a call to carry out TEEB studies and to go even further in terms of accounting and reporting. TEEB in European countries, let us just have a brief look at what happens on the national levels. Over the last years, inspired by the MEA related ecosystem assessment, and more recently also by the international TEEB study, reports numerous European countries have now engaged in ecosystem assessments and partly evaluations. These efforts can cover full national ecosystem assessments or also relate to local or sector-specific studies. It's very various. TEEB-inspired work input puts emphasis on economic valuations and assessing potential policy responses. This can include intensive stakeholder processes with comprehensive communication strategies and target group-oriented more thematic outputs. In summary, projects or studies differ substantially in scope and design, depending on who initiated them, it may be science or maybe policy, what the purpose is, and depending on capacity and resources. Anyway, as we know so far, ecosystem assessments and partly evaluations have been completed or are currently carried out in the following European countries, as mentioned here, that is Portugal, Spain, France, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Norway, Austria, and the United Kingdom. On this slide, you can focus on some of the completed European studies. You can recognize why Portugal, for instance, has carried out sectoral studies and put strong emphasis on the conceptualization. Spain and the UK did national ecosystem assessments. The UK actually did a very comprehensive study with a strong stakeholder process. In contrast, for instance, the Czech Republic focused on grasslands as one exemplary ecosystem. Well, our German TEEB study has started this year, and we hope to finalize it by 2014. It is funded by the German Ministry for the Environment, administered and coordinated by my agency and by the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research. The study is further supported by a project advisory board group consisting of representatives of the German federal states. We have 16 federal states, the different ministries, NGOs, as well as scientists from different disciplines. And besides, on the other hand, we have an advisory committee that has been put into place Members will not only provide direct input to the study, but also introduce it to the public and other stakeholder groups. Well, the German study will produce 2 comprehensive brochures for the public and the business sector to provide a basis for communication and cooperation with the TEEB process. In addition, it's 4 reports that will be produced and that will focus on biodiversity and climate change, biodiversity and ecosystem services on the one hand in rural areas and on the other hand in urban areas. We feel that these issues are especially important for Germany, and then we have a final report that will look at how to mainstream the economics of nature across sectors by using various instruments and tools. Inputs to the reports will be generated through workshops, calls for evidence, results of completed or ongoing research and development projects, and expert networks and so on. What shall be demonstrated by this slide as a whole is that TEEB is not a single project. It is designed as a process. We hope an ongoing process even after 2014. Following the concept of ecosystem-based approaches, one strategic goal of TEEB Germany is to mainstream ecosystem services into various sectors, and as you see here, these sectors include not only nature conservation, but also agricultural or climate protection, protection of water resources, public health, or regional development. Well, finally, and in conclusion, let me mention some of the major challenges that we are facing in the implementation of our TEEB study, and that we found that we are sharing these challenges with many of our European partners. That is due to the complexity of the task. It is, for example, difficult to utilize and scale up available micro-level data on assessments and evaluations on ecosystem services. Trade-offs within ecosystem services, especially within provisioning services versus regulating and cultural services or biodiversity, are not generally easy to qualify and quantify, but certainly they are very important. It's very important and essential to have a look not only on a single service, but also on these trade-offs. And we are facing some methodological deficiencies and open scientific questions. Focusing, we try to address these challenges by focusing on main biodiversity threats in Germany, where data is already existing. Focusing on win-win cases, especially for nature conservation needs and related land use options. That is synergies between ecosystem services, maintenance and biodiversity. And by intensified research activities, also inter- and transdisciplinary projects. For instance, our Ministry of Science and Research has launched a big project called on sustainable land use, which has also close relations to ecosystem services. Well, that's for the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Perhaps we continue with brief introductions of the other further studies and take questions after everyone has presented. As Mara, you could present on Georgia.
Well, let me first note that I'm not personally involved in the process. I just represent the ministry that is the main beneficiary, let's say so, of the project. Therefore, I will give you a very general overview of the process. Just in 2 words, I would say why it's important for Georgia to have a TEEB process. Georgia is a part of the Caucasus region, and according to the action plan, ecological action plan for the Caucasus, it's one of the richest, but at the same time one of the threatened ecoregions in the world. And threats come from different sources. First of all, the main step is that the country has the objective to develop itself economically as rapidly as possible. And sometimes it happens on the expense of environment and biodiversity. The second is that in the rural areas, people are still very much dependent on natural resources, and the pressure from local people to on natural resources is really very intensive and high. And among threats is the very low knowledge of the economic value of biodiversity and eco services, ecological services that our nature gives to us. Therefore, it was really very important to take this initiative, and in 2011, the president of the country expressed himself personally the interest that the process starts in Georgia. And after that, the advisory board was created, and it gave to us the possibility to involve all stakeholders in the process. Not only the Ministry of Environment Protection, but other ministries were involved in the process as well. Non-governmental organizations, scientific institutions, international organizations like WWF, IUCN. By the way, there is a representative of IUCN, Anya, who is very much involved in the process and give answers to your concrete questions. And UNEP gave us a very big hand of support to develop this process forward. And concrete steps were taken also under UNDP project, which is called to catalyze financial sustainability of protected areas of Georgia. A very interesting document was produced, economic evaluation of Tusheti National Park. So the main objective of the document was to evaluate the key ecosystem services critical to sustain productivity and economy. And the methodology that was used in the document throughout the development of the document was so-called sector scenario analysis. And business as usual and sustainable ecosystem management scenarios were compared, and the conclusions and recommendations were given. This document is available, and if anybody is interested, please let me know, and I can give you the link or send you the document by email. The next steps are to continue the work within the advisory board, of course. It's really very important to build the capacity of people who are involved in the process and to raise awareness about the TEEB as well as the main benefits that the country can have from the process. This is really very briefly about what's happening in Georgia in that regard, and if you have any questions, please ask. And well, if I'm not the right person to answer this question, I can take the questions with me back to Georgia and then get back to you later. Thank you.
Perhaps I ask Vicky on the activities in Thailand with the Eco-Vest on particular areas.
Okay. Thank you very much. So while the two previous speakers something about ability, I would like to bring down to a more practical project on the ground in Taiwan. Because this project is enhancing the economic ecosystem and biodiversity. It is a project that's actually planned for Southeast Asia, but therefore is a plan that in Taiwan with support from the Thailand government, European Union, German government, and then also the Institute for Environmental Research, Germany. Now, this project has an overall objective to reduce the loss of biodiversity in Southeast Asia country for the benefit of global communities. So it sounds very ambitious objective. And to achieve this, the project has employed three main strategies. One is that by improving federal provision, it will enable the use of economic and financial tools for profitable areas in the buffer zone. So this is by identifying, assessing, and of the existing models and adapting to the local condition and using to revise the existing policy and regulation in the countries. The second strategy is that by strengthening on-ground conservation efforts. So through the use of economic financial tools, this will be implemented in Taiwan and Laos, and that will be used as a model for replicating throughout Southeast Asia. And the third strategy is that by building capacity, learning, and information sharing about the use of economic and financial tools through the national and regional know-how transfer, so by providing training, awareness, and networking facilities to competence centers and other platforms that work throughout Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, I was not allowed to give a PowerPoint presentation, but I would like to show you actually that we are working right now on 3 pilot sites, all in Thailand. And I have to look at my notes because I was looking at the name, it's very difficult for me. The first site where we are working is in Dong Phayan Khao Yai World Heritage. It is located in the eastern part of Thailand and the border of Cambodia. So it covers an area of 600,000 hectares and comprises of 5 protected areas, which are 5 national parks and 1 wildlife sanctuary. So this area is very, very important because it has very high value in many aspects, biodiversity, wildlife, tourism, local social economy, and also because of its water regulated services. And the second area, second pilot site, is the TEEB micro-watershed, which is located in the southern part of Thailand, close to Malaysia. And in this area, the project is focusing specifically to conduct economic valuation of watershed services and development management schemes for the payment for watershed services. And the last one is a smaller one. It's in Pangmako village in the northern Thailand, in Chiang Mai, where the project focuses on specific services like non-typical forest products, such as herbal and medicinal plants. So the project has a 3 pilot sites that work at different level and scale. So from the small one to the larger area, and from the local to the regional level. And all these 3 pilot sites has different focuses with respect to ecosystem and biodiversity areas. It gives the project very good opportunities and option to develop and test a wide array of financial and economic tools for biodiversity and ecosystem services. Now, what are these what we call as economic and financial tools? Currently, there is a very, very broad understanding of what they are, and sometimes very confusing, and sometimes very clear. Maybe not for us in this room, but for people on the ground, it's very, very confusing. But for the project, at least it has 3 main components. The economic and financial tools, they are approaches for assessing, calculating, and representing the value of ecosystem services and biodiversity in decision making. The second one, there are also measures for generating and earmarking or redistributing funding for ecosystem and biodiversity. And finally, there are also instruments that work on prices and markets, which influence the production, consumption, and investment activities. For example, like taxes, subsidies, and certification. So the whole idea about what the economic markets do, they provide the basis and guiding the project in its development implementation. The project is planned for 5 years, 2011 to 2015, and the project is now in the 2nd year, and this is still a long way to go to achieve these objectives. But nevertheless, in the last 18 months, we have been making activities conducted systematically and following a stepwise approach. This includes to introduce and communicate the project and also what key concept to the stakeholder. It's not a very easy job, especially for the key stakeholder at the ground level, so creators, local government, and others. And the second one, we have already conducted the analysis and assessment on stakeholder, threat, and others. And also conducted a very long and intensive consultation process with key stakeholders to identify shortlisted and prioritized the services and sites for economic policy process. Right now, we are conducting socio-economic data assessment and evaluation that will be followed in existing service assessment and evaluation. So the result of this will be then communicated and discussed again with the key stakeholder and bring to the plan to identify the most appropriate management schemes and financial tools for payment for assistance services. So what kind of services, who will pay for what, how much, where, when, etc. And at the end, we would like also to see that the development management schemes will be legalized by the government and then implemented in the country and replicated in other Southeast Asian countries. Now, also support, not so fully detailed, the project activities. So let me give you in the last 1 minute what the three main, let's say, lessons learned from the 18-month was in Thailand and Laos. So it was very clear that actually the importance of ecosystem services and biodiversity is well known, at least by many people. They know it very well. They experience that in our consultation process on the ground, the key stakeholder, particularly the local villagers and park managers, know very well that their livelihood and their works is linked to and also depending on the sustainability of ecosystem and their services. The challenge, however, is still they look at it from different perspectives and they will use the same language. For example, the Indonesian tend to look at